Hey guys, welcome to another English commentary. It's going to be a dual commentary. I have Klazert right alongside, and this is Diggity, of course. It's going to be on Andromeda. It's going to be between Bisu and Jaedong. Should be exciting. Bisu kind of petered off, actually, right as Jaedong was rising to power. Actually, I was just talking to Klaz about this. Looks like he's going to be starting in the upper left-hand corner in Teal. It'd be nice to see him back in form, and actually I've been hearing people say he's been playing somewhat better, but still not quite to his old self. Jaedong, in the meantime, starting in the bottom right-hand corner in brown. I just saw him wake up versus Hwash, and he just looked fantastic game 2. It was like the rust just brushed off his system. Looks like he's going to send that initial Overlord scout to the upper right corner. And it's going to be interesting because this is going to be on Andromeda, and I really wanted to see this matchup on Andromeda specifically because it's such a big resource map. The Bisu build specifically is very strong, and I really want to see Dark Templar employed on this map. It's been more favorable for players to basically go Reaver Corsair. It's been the dominant thing because of those 3 expansions. But ultimately, I think Dark Templar really could be effective at limiting kind of map control around, although I know it's been very popular for Zerg players to go that quick Overlord speed, and I have Hydralisks absolutely everywhere on the map. But it'll be nice to see if we can get a spark of the old Bisu, especially against an informed Jaedong, and see how it lines up. So yeah, going to be an exciting matchup, I think, and I think this is the second match between SKT and Lecaf, and I think SKT might be up 1-0 at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of history between these two guys. Bisu just dropping his pylon outside of his ramp before heading off to scout. Scouting obviously in a counterclockwise direction. So I think the cross-map position, personally, I think probably favors Jaedong, because if Bisu's going to try anything with shuttles and Reavers or Dark Templar, it's going to take him that much longer. Excuse me, it's going to take him that much longer to get down and across the map, and that's just going to give Jaedong that much more time to react. And I personally feel that cross-map positions usually favor Zerg players. It just gives them that little bit extra time against a protoss attack whenever it comes. And yeah, Bisu setting up that pylon outside of his ramp, obviously going down for the force then, and now he's going to get that probe inside. Jaedong trying to stop that probe from being not able to do so. Interestingly enough, Jaedong's actually gone for the min-only natural expo inside his base. I think he was maybe trying to hide that second hatchery from Bisu and trying to go for some kind of tricky strategy. Not able to pull it off, not able to get the block in time. Now putting down the spawning pool. So this is very unique. I haven't seen this before from a Zerg player, going for the min-only expo as opposed to going for the natural expo. Maybe he feels that it might be easier to defend up the ramp, but to be honest, it doesn't really make sense to me why he would choose to do that. Obviously, as a Zerg player, you want to push out your defense as much as possible on this map, although that's probably more important against Terran players than Protoss. As I said, a lot of history between these two guys. Bisu, unfortunately for Protoss players, never really got established as a player who reigned supreme for a long period of time. Yes, he did win a couple of MSLs in a row, but he was never really the dominant player of his time. There was always someone contesting against him or threatening to break. And now Jaedong's trying to take that second hatchery, put his third hatchery down, the second expansion as National Expo. Bisu blocking with the probe, and Jaedong unable to do it. So Bisu, with some decent micro there, has actually stopped Jaedong. So Jaedong's going to be forced to send a second drone out. Meanwhile, Gateway going up for Bisu. So yeah, there's a lot of history between these two guys. There's no love lost whatsoever between these two players. Once again, Bisu stopping Jaedong, and Bisu now putting the pylon down at that National Expo. So Jaedong's now going to have to wait for his Zerglings to pop out before he can take that hatchery. So Jaedong's strategy being severely hampered by Bisu here. Bisu taking the early edge in this game. And yeah, I mean, Jaedong, I think, again, Bisu, both these players are sort of similar in the sense that neither of them really had a reign. Just as soon as Jaedong started to be dominant, Flash emerged and took that mantle from him, and now Flash seems to be falling away. And I think in a way, while it's sad for StarCraft fans, especially for Protoss fans, to not have had a Protoss player really dominate the scene the way we've seen Savior do it in the past, or so many great Terran players do it in the past. At the same time, it's good for StarCraft to have loads of really top players competing against each other, vying for that top position. And I think that's the kind of state we're in right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's going to expect. I think Bisu fell just short to say that he was kind of the dominant one for that era. He was definitely dominant for, I would say, 2/3 during that 2 MSL reign. But then Mind came along, kind of knocked him off that pedestal. Seems to be a big pattern lately. It just seems like the turnover is going very rapid. 4 hatchery build in the meantime for Jaedong, so it looks like he's going to be going Hydralisks. And we'll see what Bisu does. I think Reaver Corsair tends to be a lot more mobile, and this is a big map. I think mobility really counts, and we definitely saw that in recent matches. I'm not going to go over all of them, but basically when it comes down to Protoss versus Zerg, the cross-map position actually has, especially when going Reaver Corsair, has worked out for the Protoss here and there. And the question is how much pressure can Jaedong put up? I think he put that mineral only down. He was planning on going for a 3 hatchery, some sort of 3 hatchery build, and we'll see if he decides to go to Mulisk. I know Jaedong tends to favor Mulisks quite a bit. He tends to be quite a bit less successful with Hydralisks. I remember seeing him in the OSL. It was about 2 seasons ago against Stork, going with the Hydralisk build, and just didn't work. There's the Stargate now, so it looks like we are going to at least see some Reavers out in the field. The question is what's going to be accompanying it momentarily. Zergling's still not able to. Wow, Bisu doing a good job keeping his scouts alive and doing an excellent job thus far with the harass. Lair now being teched up. We'll see momentarily when that. It's possible you could go for a 4 hatch Mulisk build to be somewhat unorthodox. So expect, and the second gas going down momentarily. So expect to see the Hydralisks actually not too long from now. But really, and almost sneaking that scout by again. He's doing a fantastic job with this scout. Still hasn't dropped it below health, and just did an excellent job with that pylon down. There's the robotics facility, so I am going to expect to see a Corsair Reaver combination, which has been very popular, I think, because of that third base. You have the additional minerals go down. You have 2 gas that you know are secured, so go from there. And you also know that the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock location, you have the drop locations, which you can hold. I think once you get cannons down, it can be advantageous. There's a Hydralisk Den and an Evolution Chamber as well. Before I rant too long here, but Bisu doing a really good job, and again, yeah, I actually feel like this kind of is going to work against Jaedong simply because he's not going to have the mobility, and I think as soon as he gets a couple Hydralisks out, he'd be wise just to push into Bisu as quickly as possible, or at least establish some sort of scouting perimeter around the map so he can maybe get Burrow very quickly. I think where Bisu's lost, or other Protoss have lost with this sort of build, is when the scouting's been out there for the Zerg. So get Burrow, get something out in the field, at least establish some sort of visual perimeter line, and try to equate basically the fact that you're having to counteract very fast shuttles that are moving across the map in that way.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Jaedong hasn't produced a few more Zerglings and spread them across the map. That's exactly what I was thinking he should do as well. He's produced a Spire though, so that's going to give him the opportunity to get a couple of Scourges up. I think the Spire has gone up primarily. I don't think he's going to make a lot of Mulists. I think he's going to get a couple of Scourges out just to kind of counteract the shuttles and the Corsairs from Bisu. He's seen the Stargate. I don't think necessarily Jaedong saw that robotics facility, although he was, although the Overlord sight range just might have been in sight. Now the robotic support bit going up for Bisu. I think, yeah, exactly. I agree with you that mobility and air superiority is a huge factor in this map. And the crucial thing for Jaedong obviously is that he doesn't know. I don't think, if he hasn't seen that robotics facility, and even if he has seen it, if he hasn't seen the robotic support, but he doesn't know whether Bisu's got a Templar Archives hidden somewhere, and whether he should be worrying about DT drops as opposed to worrying about Reaver drops. Although either way, he knows he's going to have to defend against Bisu's harass, and really this is Bisu's strength. Shuttle play is mainly Bisu's strength. So Bisu not just trying to push out with his Dragoon and a couple of Zealots, just try and do a little bit of damage to Jaedong, try and take the Overlord, not able to do so. Yeah, I think Jaedong did take a little bit of his, and Jaedong trying to intercept those Corsairs, keeping his Overlords alive. I don't think Bisu's killed any Overlords of Jaedong so far, and Jaedong now looks to be in a position that he's going to be pushed out, but obviously he's going to leave himself a little bit vulnerable to Bisu's counter. But I think Bisu's going to actually, by pushing out, what Jaedong's going to do is he's going to force Bisu to use his Reavers to defend, and if Jaedong can do that, he can keep Bisu back in his base, and therefore commit him to defense longer, allowing his own economy to prosper and go unchecked and go unharassed. The longer he can keep Bisu back, the more it's going to work out for him. Bisu now taking his main only natural expo as well as the expo at the 12 o'clock base. So Bisu meanwhile forced to stand in a defensive stance because Jaedong's got a decent number of Hydralisks pushed out. And Jaedong's also got speed upgraded Overlords, and he's also got a couple of Scourges out. And Jaedong looks like he's going to anticipate a couple of the Corsairs, and great anticipation by Jaedong. He manages to take out one of Bisu's Corsairs, and now he's going to be able to use those Scourges to scout inside Bisu's base and see exactly what tech he has. He also has the speed upgraded Overlords, and obviously that was because he wasn't sure whether or not he would need the sight from them to actually be able to see, and another Corsair going on. So Jaedong picking off, sniping a Corsair in the middle of Bisu's base. Great play by Jaedong there. But yeah, I think the advantage of the side Overlords obviously is the fact that now that he has them, he can probably research drop tech, and on a large map like this, he might be able to catch Bisu off guard because as we talked about, mobility being the key on a map like this, and Bisu, again, as you said, Jaedong pushing out, Bisu forced into a slightly defensive stance with the Reaver stuck with him. I was wondering whether or not Bisu slowing Jaedong down, putting that third hatchery down initially was going to affect the game in a large way, but Jaedong seems to have recovered quite comfortably from it. And the key here is he's sacrificing a lot of Scourges, but he's keeping Bisu's Corsair count down, because that's what happens. Bisu's trying to get into that overdrive mode that Protoss players go for when they go for the Corsair Reaver combo, and it's sort of like a zenith point when the Protoss is climbing up the hill and he has to try and stay alive as he gets up that hill. But once they get up past a certain point, that's it. The Zerg can do nothing, and the Protoss player just runs rampant all across the map. Once they establish a certain amount of Corsairs and and shuttle with reavers, it just becomes nearly impossible for the Zerg player to do anything, and the Zerg player's bases become indefensible. And that's what Bisu is trying to get to. He seems to have built up enough of a defensive position. Usually I feel that, and now Bisu with the 2-star gets really pumping those Corsairs. Before I keep going on forever, I do feel that once a Protoss player achieves that, it's very, very difficult for the Zerg player to actually defend it successfully. So Jaedong is going to have to put all the stuff. So he has got Burrow now, so he's going to be in a good position to try and intercept that shuttle, and that's exactly what he needs.
It looks like it's going to go into that 9 o'clock location. It was, or sorry, 3 o'clock location. I think it's very key that Jaedong took it early. Now the shuttle, just barely pushing around. Oh, gets picked off. Beautiful by Jaedong. Loses the Overlord as well, but honestly, I think he's happy that he picked that off. In the meantime, Spore Colony also going up at that 3 o'clock location. I think those Spore Colonies are actually going to be big as well, because I think Bisu's going to make a run at that big Overlord pack in not too long, and he's going to need 2 or 3, in my opinion, 2 or 3 Spore Colonies underneath to really defend against it. Jaedong needs to think about getting additional hatchery down. I don't think he knows about that 12 o'clock hatchery that Bisu's taken in the meantime. I don't think he's really going to have access to it really until maybe very late in the game. Looks like he's got a level 1 spines as well, but Bisu in the meantime got a level 1 air weapons. Basically, I don't think Overlords are going to be able to get to that direction with all these Corsair running around the map. And Jaedong, or I'm sorry, Bisu in the meantime got a probe scout into that bottom left-hand corner. I think Jaedong needs to expand one more time until he, basically Bisu can run all over the map. And going to Fleet Beacon, looks like he's going to do the disruption web Corsair trick we saw him try against Quano. Didn't work out there because Quano, again, he had Burrow and he had that around the map. Jaedong does, okay, he does have Burrow, but I don't think he has enough. You can tell on the mini-map, I don't think he has the perimeter he needs to get the spotting off on the dropships as they come out. And now he's setting up an additional hatchery. He needs to be careful. Oh, he doesn't have anything in position to really defend that. So Jaedong trying to take over the map, which is exactly what he needs to do, is take over the map quickly while Bisu doesn't have a lot of shuttles out. And maybe he can defend this, maybe not. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to at least save that upper right-hand drone. But yeah, just start expanding everywhere as quickly as possible. Get into full macro mode, but additionally, you need to establish some sort of visual perimeter with Zerglings, with something, so you can see those shuttles coming down the line.
Yeah, definitely with... I don't think Bisu has reached critical mass just yet, but I think that one shuttle kill was absolutely huge. It was huge, huge, huge in this game. It just made so much of a difference, because if that shuttle had managed to drop and take out some... Although Jaedong did have that 3 o'clock base defended with quite a few Sunkens, and Bisu didn't obviously have disruption web, but Bisu now has got 2 shuttles. At this stage, he would have had 3 shuttles with Reavers. Jaedong, again, trying to strategically position his Hydralisks and try and intercept those shuttles, and if he can do that, he's going to be able to, again, do serious damage to Bisu. Bisu not flying around with observers, doesn't have observers positioned around the map. It's obviously difficult for him because Jaedong does have his... But Bisu not going in for an attack. It looks like he's actually managed to circumvent Jaedong's defenses. He's going to now land in behind that Expo. Jaedong coming in, he's got a couple of Overlords there, but he doesn't... those Overlords are... So it was interesting to see how Bisu was warded off by the Overlords. Actually, I think Jaedong might have had a couple of Hydras and Overlords. I couldn't tell because the bottom of the map was covered with the single player by the first person view screen, but it looks like Jaedong has actually picked off one of Bisu's shuttles. So Bisu now has lost 2 shuttles with Reavers in them without, and I'm not sure if those Hydralisks that came around the south were actually burrowed or if it was just quick reactions by Jaedong. But Jaedong seems to be defending well, and I would have agreed with you that he didn't seem to have a perimeter, or wide enough perimeter to anticipate Bisu's shuttle movements, and yet that's exactly what he seems to be doing. He seems to have his forces in the right place to ward off the attacks at the right time. He's now taken out at least 2 shuttle worths of Reavers of Bisu's, and even though Bisu's built up a massive Corsair fleet and has unrivaled air superiority, Jaedong is still very much in the game. And Jaedong, this could be the crucial point in the game here now, because Jaedong's loaded up those Overlords. If they get caught mid-air, mid-drop by Bisu, it's just going to be a complete slaughter, and then Bisu's going to be able to effect the counterattack, and looks like those Overlords are going to run right into those Corsairs, although unintentionally. Jaedong has seen them, so Jaedong's going to have a chance to drop here. So Jaedong dropping on the top, but Bisu's dropped. Bisu's got disruption web going on as well, and Bisu's going to take this battle. Jaedong's going to try and kill the Reavers, but he's not going to be able to do so. So Jaedong loses most of the Hydralisks in that drop, and he's also lost all of his Overlords. He was just trying to set up a defense for that expansion at the 1 o'clock position, but Bisu with his 4 Reavers and his Corsair fleet has managed to kill. Jaedong did manage to pick off one of the shuttles. He still has the birds zerging to see what Bisu's position is, but the disruption web playing a crucial part. Bisu's now got another shuttle to come and pick that Reaver up. Is Jaedong going to be able to take this second shuttle down? In the meantime, looks like Jaedong is trying to get within. He does pick up one of the Reavers, but Bisu's got managed to ward that attack away. He's loaded the Reaver up in the shuttle, and Jaedong is holding his defense, just barely holding his defense here, trying to push Bisu on. Bisu's not going to be pushed out, so Jaedong managed to hold his defense, but now Bisu's approaching that point where he should be able to start killing Jaedong's bases, where he's going to be able to force, especially on a large map like this. And this is the advantage of the Corsair shuttle strategy, is that the Protoss doesn't need to overexpand, whereas the Zerg really needs to have loads and loads of bases because of the Protoss's ability to kill lots of his bases. And even though Jaedong has got a relatively mobile force with those Overlords, Bisu with his massive air superiority is now in prime position to take control of this game.
It's amazing because it looks like Jaedong's just gone straight level 2 spines upgrade. In the meantime, oh, Bisu coming in for another kill in the upper right hand corner. It looks like some Hydros coming alongside. That last attack was beautiful, by the way. Looks like he's going to be able to at least take this hatchery out. What Bisu doing, what he needs to do is just keep limiting what Jaedong can do. Jaedong, nice disruption web, just pinning them back, forcing them to retreat so they can't really attack. It can't get in on the Reavers, and this hatchery is going to go down. So a disruption web really being a key role here, especially in the positioning. You see Bisu loading in the upper right hand corner, and Jaedong couldn't even approach them because he knew if he was going to approach from any direction, he was just going to get disruption webbed all the way across, and the Reavers would still be able to hammer him. Basically, Jaedong needs to have units in position ahead of time. If he doesn't have units ahead of time, basically, I would actually, I know it's a bit unorthodox, but go lurkers or something, plant them behind the base, so basically that those Reavers can't really can't land themselves anywhere. Now, Jaedong going for a huge attack, but oh wow, of course, beautiful disruption web's going to save the day once again, save the cannons, and again, the Hydra is going to have to back off because of that disruption web. Bisu again, and it's just going to be about position establishments between the Reavers and Hydralisks. A drop going up cliffside. I'm sorry, actually at the 9 o'clock position. I think that's going to get taken down by Jaedong in the meantime, unless some reinforcements. And that disruption once again could be huge. The shuttle going up, the shuttle getting taken down. One thing Jaedong is doing absolutely right is he's taking down the shuttles left and right. But really, he needs to have Hydralisks or something in position basically to deal with those Reavers before they're dropped. If they manage to drop in position, just with a disruption web perimeter that can be created, I don't know that there's anything Jaedong will ultimately be able to do to defend his hatcheries. Maybe if he can just keep expanding, Bisu won't be able to keep up with him around the map. But at the moment now, the big key, going carriers alongside here, going carriers. This is insane. So going for complete air superiority, realizing he can't get a shuttle count out, and because that level 2 spines, he's just getting taken down left and right. Gonna switch tactics and just gonna go straight into disruption web carrier, and we'll see if it pays off for him. That's insane.
I think it is a big risk by Bisu because anytime you make a switch, whether it's Protoss versus Zerg or Protoss versus Terran, anytime you make a switch to carriers, you're giving your opponent a window of opportunity. And I think Bisu needed to keep the pressure, even though he was losing Reavers. I think he was just about starting to dominate on Jaedong when he decided to make the switch to carriers. He had taken out the expansion at the 1 o'clock position, and it was very difficult. Jaedong just was not able to get in range. Maybe he felt that he was running out of Corsair energy to keep spamming. And even though those Hydralisks were burrowed, they weren't able to do too much damage against the Reavers. Jaedong obviously trying to focus the shuttles almost in preference to the Reavers, realizing that what he needs to do more than anything is to limit Bisu's mobility, because it doesn't matter if Bisu's got 6 Reavers. If he's only got 1 shuttle, he can't really transport them. But now Bisu's got the carriers in play as well, and Jaedong's had his little window of respite, but we've got a massive war of attrition going on. The key here is that Bisu's still not been able to take that 9 o'clock expansion down. Jaedong coming in with a massive group of Hydras, but now Bisu's got carriers to support those Reavers. He's only got 2 Reavers in place though, and the problem for Jaedong is that there's a choke there, and effectively Bisu's walled off that choke with those 4 disruption webs, and Bisu's disruption web positioning has just been near perfect. And I have to say that I always feel that it's been argued a long time whether or not the Corsair Reaver combo is overpowered. I don't necessarily think it's overpowered. I think in order to get to that position of the game where you can actually execute that strategy well, it takes a lot of effort. And maybe Andromeda is a map that's almost built for something like that. But Jaedong allowed Bisu to be completely free in the beginning of the game, and Bisu's harass, I think, at the beginning as well, is what allowed Bisu to get into that position to reach that critical mass. And really, once a Protoss player reaches that critical mass, they're impossible to stop. And it's got to be a war of attrition. The key thing for Jaedong had been that he'd been able to stop Bisu from getting that 9 o'clock expo going, and Bisu had been limited to that 12 o'clock expo, which is pretty much unassailable. Looks like Jaedong's going to make another attempt at it, and if he does, this will be suicide. This will be GG right here with those Corsairs waiting, but the Corsairs have gone away, and this might be Jaedong's chance here. The Corsairs are going to come back. This is going to be horrible for Jaedong, because Bisu's seen those Overlords now. Jaedong dropping those Hydralisks, but he's going to lose all of those Overlords. Disruptions on those Hydralisks as well. He's not going to be able to take down the Photon Cannons either, but Jaedong is trying to take that base down, but meanwhile he's lost a massive group of Overlords. I hope he's going to be able to recover, and Bisu coming in with the drop of the Reavers. Jaedong trying to get those Hydralisks in play, but Bisu's force is just so much more mobile. The carriers are going to come in and mop up, so Jaedong's attack comes to nothing. He loses a massive group of Overlords as well as Hydralisks, and really Bisu comfortably dealing with that. His force much more versatile, much more mobile, and just able to get in there and take out Jaedong's forces. And really at this stage Bisu is in a dominant position in this map. Jaedong unable to expand, and he went for the wrong expansion. I think he should have continued playing a war of attrition, tried to keep Bisu's units whittled down while continuing to expand and not letting Bisu get the upper hand on him. But I think now it's going to be incredibly difficult for Jaedong to do anything. Bisu's just going to power ahead with his forces. Jaedong popping those Hydralisks out again, using the bird to max advantage. Managed to pick off one carrier, but the disruption web is just making it impossible for him to fight, because in the time it takes Jaedong to move his units from under the disruption web, the carriers kill his forces. He's now got defilers out, and maybe that will help him turn around the game. I personally don't think so. I think this is going to be GG to Bisu.
Whew, yeah, I've got to say Bisu's looking just absolutely amazing right here. His disruption web spellcasting has just been beautiful, spot on, covering those Hydralisks across the board. Hydralisk now going with that Dark Swarm underneath, and Dark Swarm's really what he needs to defend against those carriers alongside. Disruption web goes down. Forge, oh, nice drop back behind the Reavers. Might be able to finally catch these Reavers off guard. Doesn't look like the Corsairs are there to help defend, so it looks like Bisu might lose this 9 o'clock expansion. So Jaedong might be able to take this game right back into Bisu's hands if he can just limit the gas production. He's in such a gas-heavy build. I think his main's basically probably depleted at this point. But in the meantime, Bisu enacting a lot of damage on Jaedong. Jaedong has it expanded any place else, so Jaedong needs to get this done. The Reavers, oh my goodness, Reavers still there, Corsairs coming back, and Jaedong is not able to take out the 9 o'clock position. Things have solidly swung now into Bisu's favor. Bisu starting to bear down on that 3 o'clock position. Jaedong hasn't established the upper right hand base. His main is probably looking thin. His secondary's got to be thin at this point. And in the meantime, he's also in a pretty gas heavy build. He's got a lot of hatcheries, but if you don't have gas and minerals, you can't keep basically maxed to Hydralisks, which is what you need to deal with this build. Either that or a buttload of Scourge, but honestly, even that at this point, with the 2 control groups of Corsairs that are out in the field, would just absolutely melt. Bisu, though, with that, I gotta say, it's almost imbalanced the way he's using that disruption web. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I think Andromeda is the kind of map that it does allow players to use a turtling strategy, especially Terran and Protoss players. And I think when it comes to Zerg, if you see your opponent going for a sort of turtlish strategy, your only alternative is to mass expand, and Jaedong didn't do that. I remember there was a point in time where you were saying that you felt Jaedong needed to get a couple more hatcheries down, a couple more expansions down, and that's exactly what he needed to do, and he didn't do that, and as a result, he didn't really have the depth to be able to cope. Once he started losing hatcheries, he didn't really have the depth. He couldn't just afford to throw hatcheries away, because if he had been in that position while he could keep Bisu busy at one hatchery and launch a counterattack in the other and not really suffer for it, he would have been in a much stronger position in the game, but unfortunately he wasn't. Bisu did give him a brief respite when he was switching to carriers, and Jaedong didn't really take advantage of that either. So Bisu's found himself in a very strong position from that. We've seen Terran players as well turtle very effectively on this map, and I have to say the Corsair Reaver strategy is built for this kind of play. It's built for a turtling strategy, for a Terran player who takes one expansion at a time and slowly expands and just takes the number of expansions that he needs, the number of resources to keep his build going. Interesting enough, Bisu hasn't taken the gas at the 9 o'clock expo, even though he's in a fairly gas heavy build, or maybe he had taken it and Jaedong has killed it and he just hasn't rebuilt the assimilator there. And now massive Plague catching all of Bisu's carriers, and that's going to hurt Bisu, because this is going to give Jaedong a chance to pick these carriers off. Jaedong managing to get the Defiler in range, and those carriers are just bleeding health, but Bisu's defense is too strong and Jaedong's not going to be able to break it, even though he's got a decent sized group of Hydralisks there. The key for Bisu is that he's still got a lot of Reavers, but Jaedong is pumping Hydralisks up the front door. He's just trying to barrel his way down the front door of Bisu. Bisu deciding to try and focus Jaedong's attention elsewhere by going for an attack. So Jaedong successfully has drawn Bisu's attention away. He has rebuilt that expansion at the 1 o'clock position. Really, he needs it because he's run out of minerals. The only minerals I can see Jaedong mining right now are perhaps at 3 o'clock base and at his natural expo, and he's really struggling. I think Jaedong might have also taken the base in the middle of the map, realizing that Bisu's obviously got the more mobile force. It'd be interesting if Jaedong's actually put a hatchery down, but it does look like it. So Bisu now, Jaedong trying to intercept those carriers, but Bisu's still got, I think, an overwhelming weight of numbers, and even though Jaedong got that excellent plague off on those carriers, he needed to also get a plague off maybe on the Corsairs to give himself a chance. Bisu now taking out that expansion, the 1 o'clock position again. Jaedong continuing to fight. He does, obviously his build being less expensive than Bisu, he's continued to produce a lot of Hydralisks, and now the Disruption Web and Swarm competing against each other, but Jaedong trying to focus the carriers down, managed to pick one of the carriers off, and he's forced to retreat. Another Defiler getting ready for another, I thought he was getting ready for another Plague, but just more Swarms. But really, in this war of attrition, you just can't see Jaedong coming up. Bisu's just got too strong a force on the ground, and Jaedong just doesn't have enough to beat him off, although he's fighting quite valiantly.
Looks like he's got some queens around, but honestly, queens don't work against those interceptors. Maybe he wants to get those Corsairs webs so he can bring in some Scourge. I think he actually needed, as an orthodox, I guess not unorthodox, as uncommon as it is, he needed to get Devourers out in the air to deal with this massive carrier Corsair fleet. Didn't catch it in time, and now it looks like his main's about to get rampage at 3 o'clock position at the very least. Queen getting caught, so didn't even get an ensnare off. The problem is there's still those 2 shuttles worth of Reavers in the background, so even if that Defiler Swarm goes down, there's still those explosive scarabs that are running into the Hydralisks. And even then, I'm only seeing a control group of Hydralisks or a control group and a half of Hydralisks going up against a full control group of carriers, as well as 4 Reavers behind it, and that huge mass of Corsairs. As you can see, it's just not enough. Looks like there is a Parasite. A Parasite was actually what Jaedong was trying to get off so he can get a spot on it, knowing that he's, again, still not as mobile as the carriers that can just move about the map artifacts, while his Hydralisks have to just sit on the ground, burrowing the drones in the meantime. And look at all that disruption web just hovering over each other. Anyway, but Jaedong, he needed about 5 gas at this point to really shift into big air Devourers to really deal with this, but I just think it's out of his hands. It's too late. He's stuck with the Hydralisk he's got, and right now even trying to pin it in, I just don't think he's going to get it done. The Hydralisk can't focus fire at the position. It looks like the carriers can't rage them right there, and in the meantime, he doesn't have any additional bases out in the field. That's it. He doesn't have that through. That 3 o'clock location was more or less wiped out. That 1 o'clock location's been lost twice now. Hydralisk do manage to pick off 1 carrier as they're out of position, almost catching a second. Looks like they are going to move be able to just cycle back around. But in the meantime, Bisu's he hasn't expanded additionally either, but I still think he's got the unit set that he wants. He's okay with all these units, and he can actually expand at will, where Jaedong just can't establish anything more. It looks like he does somehow have the middle of the map, though.
Yeah, Jaedong in dire straits right now. I don't think that middle expansion is going to do much for him. I think Bisu might not even have scouted that, and that's probably the only reason why it's alive. And Jaedong is being allowed to stay in the game. Bisu, I think, just scouting around trying to find Jaedong's expansions to kill him off. Jaedong's built a lot of Scourges now, so he's still hoping. And Dark DT coming in now into that middle expansion for Jaedong, and that DT is just going to wipe the floor with Jaedong's drones. He's got 2 DTs, he's got Corsairs for cover, and this is going to be GG right here, I think. This is going to be the final battle, and the last throw of the dice for Jaedong. And yeah, I think the key is that Bisu's managed to keep those Reavers alive. When he made the switch to carriers, he still kept those Reavers in defense. So essentially, he went into defensive mode, kept the Reavers behind his cannon, so that once he had the carrier and he used the carriers, didn't expose his Reavers too much. He kept his Reavers alive. Jaedong coming in, not able to really even get in range. The Defiler gets in, gets a couple of swarms off, but Jaedong just doesn't have the unit count to actually do anything about it, and that expansion has gone down as well. Jaedong trying to get his units all together, bunched up before he makes a move, but unfortunately for him, he's got a group of Zerglings and Hydralisks versus a massive fleet of carriers and Corsairs and Reavers, and it is beyond hope. I think it's been hopeless for Jaedong for a while now in this game. So Bisu taking a comfortable win, and really he's played the perfect game of StarCraft on Andromeda from a Protoss player's point of view, and I think Jaedong almost allowed him a little bit to do that. I think the cross. I was saying cross map position favors Zerg, but the cross map position also favors the Terran and Dark Archon for Bisu as well. So he's just playing with Jaedong at this point. I think the cross map position also favors the kind of strategy that Bisu had in mind, which is basically and massive plague on most of those courses, but that's not going to make any difference either. But yeah, I think the cross map positions allows the Protoss player as well to expand and to play a defensive sort of game and to turtle and get that tech up, which is exactly what Bisu was able to do. And despite the fact that Jaedong managed to take out 2 of his initial shuttles with Reavers in them, despite that massive loss and Bisu doing no damage to Jaedong's economy in that, he still managed to come out on top. And as I said, the key is for a Protoss player is to reach critical mass with, and Jaedong looks like he's killed off a couple of carriers as well as the Reavers. He is fighting, but unfortunately for Jaedong, he's run out of ground. He's run out of burrows to burrow under. But yeah, I do feel that once a Protoss player reaches critical mass, it's very, very difficult to stop them. You either have to out-expand them massively and just have more expansions they can kill. And I think I saw Shoja do that once, or maybe it was Savior. And that's the only player who I've seen actually survive this Protoss strategy by doing that. Otherwise, you've got to kill it before it comes to fruition, and Jaedong wasn't able to do that.
So GG there from Jaedong, and I think we saw every single unit in the tech tree there for Protoss except for Observers, which is hilarious, because usually Observers are the first thing you see. But yeah, I think this nice strategy from Bisu, and it was nice to see that switch to carriers. I don't think I've seen a pro game actually where mass carriers has won the day for the Protoss. It's awesome to see it here, and Bisu is back. Fighting Jaedong, I think he was in a really good position. He had a very minor gap there, and I think the Jaedong of a while ago might have taken it, but still playing at a very high level, looking very frustrated there. The Bisu really shutting that perfect play, actually, top to bottom, I would say, from him. And I even feel like if Jaedong had gotten those expansions down, I don't think he would have gotten Devourers out in time to really deal with Bisu. Bisu really had the perfect combination across the field between the carriers, between the Corsairs, and between the disruption web. It was just amazing to watch that. Some beautiful micro across the board.
Yeah, as I said, once Bisu reached critical mass, it was always Jaedong was always going to struggle. What interests me is Bisu joining SK Team 1. I know this happened a while back, but for the longest time, I think that was SK Team 1's biggest weakness, is that they didn't have a good Protoss player, and I think Bisu joining them was huge for them. I think they had July for a while as well, but he seems to have gone. This SK Team 1 was always a Terran-heavy team, and they never really had great zergs, although I think they did have... oh god, what's his name? I can't even remember his name right now. His name Gorush. Sorry, they didn't have Gorush. But yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, I mean, SK Team 1 have always been a Terran-heavy team, and I think Bisu adds a lot of depth to them, which is probably why you can see that they're doing a lot better this season. They look like they might be challenging for the title this season. At one stage, they were at the top of the table. So it'll be interesting to see how the Pro League pans out in that respect. But it's good to see Bisu coming back into form. Some hope for Protoss players. That being said, we have had in the current OSL, 3 of the 4 semi-finalists were Protoss, and that says a lot, I think. And we've got a Protoss obviously in the final as well. So so while there isn't an amazingly outstanding Protoss player out right now to dominate, someone who can really excite players of the likes of Flash or July, who's doing it for the moment for Zerg fans, I think Protoss players still have a lot to look forward to, hopefully.
Yeah, I think they got a lot of young players out there. Jang being Cal, they've got a lot of hope, especially Cal. He almost looks like I was talking with Moltrap a while ago, a couple commentaries ago, and I'm like, he's not actually a Protoss player. He's a Terran player. He's just too creative to actually be a Protoss player. Because usually Protoss players, you just see the steady, they lay out the game plan and go across the board. You don't really see the trickiness or the innovation or the constant proxying or the creative play that we've seen out of Cal. It's like he should be Terran, but somehow, accidentally, by some glitch of DNA, he ended up playing Protoss. It's just fun to watch him play, I think. But yeah, a lot of good young ones, and it looks like Stork actually recently won the Blizzard Invitational, so maybe we'll see him start coming back. I hope to see it actually, because I really like Stork. I want him to beat the yellow curse, really.
Have you are you saying that Nalra is not creative?
No, I'm saying Nalra is extremely creative, but I don't know. That's true. I should.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got to disagree with you. I've got to disagree with you about creativity and Protoss. I would say if you look at the amount of uncreative players out there, by far the most of them seem to be Terran. I mean, you've got Justin, and then you've got this whole line of Terran players like Light, and God knows so many Terran players who yeah, exactly. There's just so many of them out there that are basically crap and just dull and boring to watch. So I've got to disagree with that.
Yeah, I think that the halt I have is you just see a lot of creative Terran players that are known for their creativity. Narla's known for, he's known for his creativity, I gotta give you that, but like, I don't know, I can think of a dozen creative Terran players off the top of my head, where it's, you've got, the famous Boxer, you've got Lomo recently, you've got Flash, you've got, basically, if you're going to be a good Terran player, usually it comes down to creativity, whereas Protoss are usually, their kind of stamp of dominance isn't so much their creative play, but their
forgetting TT Shine as well. You're forgetting TT Shine as well.
But you're right, as far as the standard boring players, like the only one I can think of in the Protoss realm where it's just like, by the book, it's free, really. All the other players, tend to be at least exciting,
Yeah, I think for some reason Terran has a perception of being the easy race, even though it isn't. It requires a lot of skill, and I think that's why a lot of crap players flock to Terran, and that's why a lot of great players have also been in Terran. I think probably just more people want to play Terran. It'd be interesting to see the Korean statistics on that in the pro gamer field, how many Terrans there are playing, period. Obviously, I think it ebbs and flows. Maybe it's also got to do with champions. I mean, if you look at any other sport, if you look at any other sport, when a country produces a great tennis player, in 5-10 years' time, you'll see that country having a huge number of up-and-coming young tennis players, like all the hot Russian female tennis players. You had Kornikova, who wasn't really that good. She only ever made it to number 3, but she made it big. And so you've got all these young Russian girls, who are absolutely stunning, deciding to play tennis because they see it as a way out of their situation. And I think similarly, if you've got players like Boxer coming in and dominating the scene, that's going to inspire other players to come up, other Terran people to play Terran because they want to emulate Boxer. And Flash probably would be one of those players who decided to start playing Terran to emulate Boxer. Maybe if there'd been a Zerg dominant at the time when he first fell in love with StarCraft, he would have decided to become a Zerg fan and decided to become a Zerg player, and we would have seen Flash as a Zerg player. Who knows? But I think, and especially if we see recently, we've seen a few upcoming Zerg players, and that's been after Savior has shown them the way. And in that respect, I think Savior himself was revolutionary for pro StarCraft. But anyway, that's another debate for another time. I think that was a great game of StarCraft anyway between two veterans. Although I think it's unfair to really call Jaedong a veteran. But it'll be interesting to see if how Jaedong does in actually the. Is he out of the MSL now, or what's the story with him? Because I didn't watch that game. He's still. Evacuation. So it'll be interesting to see how Jaedong continues to progress in the MSL, and whether he can, because Flash is still in there, so we potentially could still have a Flash versus Jaedong encounter in that tournament.
I think it's. I wouldn't call Jaedong a veteran, but I would definitely call him an established player. He's definitely established. So at this point, especially after that MSL title and the OSL
Isn't that
title
strange though that? Isn't that strange that we consider Jaedong an established player, but GG Play is not really considered an established player, even though GG Play has won an OSL? Yes, Jaedong's won an OSL as well, but for some reason, Jaedong seems to be someone who we would consider to be more consistent, considered to be an established player, whereas someone like GG Play or even Iris, they're not considered. Well, I suppose Iris is established, but GG Play doesn't seem to be kind of an established top-level player for some reason.
I think it's because Jaedong rolled players over, and it was scary dominant versus GG Play, where he just played solid StarCraft, where it was very competitive between him and Iris at the same time, he's very competitive, and definitely I would say, on the bottom level of the S class, but at the same time he wasn't absolutely rolling over all of his competition. Jaedong had that period of time where he was just absolutely dominant, and I think therefore he ends up in that established category.
And that's what it takes really to make your stamp, to kind of get your Hollywood Hall of Fame or your prints on the ground, as it were. And I guess if you could probably compare GG Play to someone like Michael Chang, who back in the day, I don't know if you've heard of Michael Chang, as an American tennis player back in the day,
Yep.
but Michael Chang used to be the kind of guy that would wear the opponents down and grind out his results. He never did anything solid or spectacular. He didn't have the physique for it because he was a little bit short in height compared to some of the other tennis pros, like compared to Sampras, who was dominating at the time. But I think GG Play is that sort of player where he kind of grinds out the results, and he plays sort of kind of defendable StarCraft, and sometimes great to watch, but nothing really sublime. And that's the difference between someone like GG Play and Jaedong, and I think it comes down to subtlety versus work ethic. And literally, if you're making a football analogy, it's comparing Barcelona to Manchester United, where Manchester United, to me, don't have the subtlety and skill of Barcelona, and I'm sure I'm going to enrage a lot of Manchester United fans who, as far as I'm concerned, suck anyway. But anyway, so that's and I mean, true. I think when it comes to when it comes to StarCraft, I think it is all about subtlety, and I think those are the players that we like to watch, the players who can surprise us and the players who can excite us and enchant us with their StarCraft. And Savior has done that, Flash has done that, Jaedong has done that, and unfortunately GG Play hasn't done that. And neither have players like Luxury, and that's why, even though Mind won an MSL, he didn't really get that fan base that players like Flash have or Boxer had, simply because he's not exciting, because he doesn't innovate. And I think that's what makes StarCraft special, is when
I don't know, I would call Mind innovative. I just wouldn't call him threshingly dominant. He beat Bisu, but I still think if people felt like it went to a best of 7, Bisu might have still won.
Yeah, but I mean that's neither here nor there, though, because you could always go, oh, if it was a best of 9 or 11 or 13 or 21 or.
Well, the thing is I wouldn't call that not innovative, though. He had nice adjustment. I thought he had a really good push. He produced a Wraith to actually stop Bisu's shuttle harass, which is something other Terran player didn't do, and I was just begging Terran players to do all the way up to that point, because Bisu's just devastating. Anyway, we're getting a little too long here, which is
we are. We should probably end this. But you kind of you kind of harakiri'd yourself there, talking about Terran creativity and mentioning the fact that most Terran players didn't get the Wraith against Bisu.
Yeah, it's true. Well, that was actually, what was that era? That was like Shine, and again Lomo and Hiri were in there, and that was back when Lomo was playing Cookie Cutter. Zelos was in there, and Zelos he was playing well, but he wasn't up to full form. And yeah, Zelos,
anyway,
he's just.
We could talk about this shit forever.
Exactly. So moving on. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Once again, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.